thank you very much. It's a privilege and an honor to be here in front of you to ask you these questions. I just recently saw the movie, and it's blisteringly comedic, and it reminded me of those mockumentaries from Christopher Guest, like Waiting for Guffman and such. Also, a little bit of Curb Your Enthusiasm was in there as well. But then the movie does something that I thought was very bold. It takes a tonal shift, and it goes from incendiary satire to like real. It made me sit up in my seat, pay attention from the end of the second act going into the third. To me, the movie lives or dies on how you go from comedic to real full-on reality drama and the point in which you're making about the garments and affordable fashion, so to speak. How is that crafted? Like, did you play around with when you were going to start to change tone of the movie, and then like how did it work for you?
Well, obviously there's a script. So in the script you have it, you have the sort of the narrative in the script. But this is a film which moves between very separate worlds. It's cross-cutting between very separate worlds. Mm-hmm. So the central strand of the film is a billionaire retail tycoon, Steve's character, who's throwing this extravagant Roman-themed party on a Greek island. But then we cross-cut from that back to England and how he made his money over the past 40 years. Right. We go to Monaco, where he lives on his super yacht. We go to kind of Leicester, where people are working in the clothing factory in England. And we go to Sri Lanka, where the women are working. So there's quite a lot of freedom in the edit, because obviously all those strands are separate. They kind of run parallel to each other, and we cross between them. Right. There's quite a lot of freedom in the edit to decide exactly how, when, where, and how to go between them. Mm-hmm. But I wanted it to be clear, like the different tones, like the central strand is like full of like lots of great comedy actors doing stupid stuff, trying to get his party going. Everything's going wrong, so there's lots of sort of stupid comedy around that. And then obviously the women workers, it's very real. It's kind of documentary really, just about what the factory's like there. We have like Syrian refugees on the beach where they're all real refugees. So it is tonally very different. I quite like that. I quite like sort of the hard edge between one tone and one world and another tone and another world.
And it works. I wanted to ask about your collaborative process, because as I mentioned those mockumentaries before, there seemed to be a lot of improv. And for improv to work, you have to know how long you can go and when to stop.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, but when I work with Michael, it's not, you can't just, as it were, if I was improvising in another environment, sometimes you just go for to try and find the funniest thing. Whereas with Michael, you have to make sure it's authentic. So you can't kind of contrive things to be overtly comic in an obvious way, because I think it takes you out of the reality of the film. So anything you find that's funny has to be rooted in the character. So you kind of have a sort of a level over which you won't go. So you sort of keep things grounded. I think that's to do with I'm working with Michael, so I can do this kind of stuff, but I probably can't do that kind of stuff. So.
Right, and the scene that comes to mind is the window scene, white on white. And it's like, if you went over, it's extraordinarily uncomfortable, and you're like, ooh. If you go too short, you miss the comedic element, so it was done perfectly. I also wanted to talk about this. Greed played in a lot of film festivals. How important today is that film festival circuit, especially with so many platforms out there? And you're going theatrically, February 28th, New York and LA, which I appreciate because I'm a lover of the film-going experience. How important, equally as important, or is it less important for that film festival circuit to you both?
I think it's really important if you're making kind of independent films, sort of films that I make, then it's really important that festivals exist. What's great about them is there's usually a really enthusiastic audience at festivals, and you get a chance to sort of show your film in places around the world that you wouldn't necessarily get to show it. And equally as an audience, what's great about film festivals is you see other films you wouldn't see normally in the theatre, and you see films from all around the world. That's part of this cinema experience.
I'd say also it's quite good because if you just relied on digital platforms, the sort of lack of interaction, at least at festivals, you see the whites of people's eyes with the people who've made the films, and feel like you have you do feel some sense of community that, however different people's films are, they're all in the business of trying to make films that have some value.
Right. I do have one last question. I noticed in the credits, so you get credit for writing, but then there's an additional material credit, which is either irony, because we are talking about materials, or I've never seen...
Good point, but it's not. You're being way too perceptive.
But it's not that deep.
It's not, okay. It actually
Sean Gray's the person who has the additional material credit, but he was really a co-writer, but he wanted that credit, so that's the credit he got. But really,
fantastic.
Sean and Sean and I kind of worked on it together.
Great. Well, listen, it was a privilege and an honor. Thank you very much. I know the movie made me think about when I was getting dressed this morning and I pulled out a shirt and I was like, where was this made? So I appreciate
Great.
it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Continued
Thank you.
success.
Nice to meet you.